And then I opened the schedule for World Series, and like the next day there is a 25K 8 max, and then the thought process.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
No.
It sounds like you never do anything impulsively anyway. So there's no reason to take your time and think about if you want to play a $25,000 tournament.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy.
Welcome back to the Table One podcast. This is actually part 2 of our interview with Victoria Livschitz. It wasn't meant to be a two-parter. We just talked to her for 2 hours instead of 1. So this is part 2. Part 1 was all about her rise to selling her company, the battle to get out of Russia, the battle to get her company away from Russia when they were trying to take it from her. That's pretty much where we left off, talking about that crazy story. So if you haven't watched part 1, I suggest you definitely go back and do it. I'll put a link here or somewhere. I don't know. I can probably figure it out. But yeah, this is part 2 where we talk all about her journey in poker, finding poker, the COVID year, getting through all of that, and kind of what she's up to now. So this was a really fun conversation, and it doesn't stop getting fun in this part. So enjoy.
It shows a lot of gumption to even get on a plane and go over there. I think a lot of people would have tucked tail and was like, okay, take it, just don't kill me, don't imprison me, and I'll be good.
Exactly.
That's the deal.
So long story short, I thought
Wow.
all of that is what I meant. I'm so done. I'm just so done. I'm just gonna go to Montana and I'm gonna hike for the rest of my life with my puppies and retire like humans do. And I can't get anything right. I obviously screwed that up.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, I discovered poker. That's what happened.
So yeah, so this is around 2020, 2021 then, and
21.
So COVID happens obviously. Which is okay with you because you hate people right now, and I don't blame you. Honestly, if I would have kind of followed the same path, and I don't think I would have, but if I would have gotten to where you were, I would have been like, this is perfect. COVID happened. I don't have to talk to anybody, and I could just hike and do whatever I want to.
I'm just gonna buy this whole state.
But you're built different than I am, and you. What was it a boredom or was it just like an accidental thing?
What truly happened during COVID is that the years leading to COVID, what actually allowed me to maintain sanity and mental health through all of that in 2017, 18, 19, 20, all that time, was I discovered mountains. Mm-hmm. And I acquired this hobby, which was just kind of mountains traveling, wilderness travels. That became my huge hobby. Mm-hmm. So I discovered that late in life. I made it a project to become competent, hiker, backpacker, mountaineer. And I started to go to the mountains to find normality, if you will, and heal. And it very much worked. It was magical.
That's therapy, that's good.
It's just the best therapy that I can think of. And so that was kind of what I was really, really big times into. And of course, first it started as just spending some time in the mountains, and then I wanted to get competent. And then first time in my life I wanted to get fit because you needed to get fit. Mm-hmm. So I started to get very fit. And I started to be athletic, something I've never been before. And I started training, and I started even running ultra marathons in the mountains. I did my 30 mile and race, and I could do that. And now I wanted to do 50 miles. And then the COVID year was supposed to be a year where I take summer off, and I go hike Pacific Crest Trail.
Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about this.
I know what it is. I don't know.
So it's a long distance, one of 3 long distance trails in the U.S. where you can basically start at the Mexican border and end on Canadian border, or start on the Canadian border and walk down.
The guy from Into the Wild.
Into the Wild is essentially is about that. Yeah, exactly. So
the vertical Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, the vertical.
Exactly. Vertical Forrest Gump. The Pacific Crest runs 2,600 miles. Uh-huh. And you could do it in one season. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do that. And one of the things that I was doing at the time, I got competent enough that I would do most of my trips solo. So I wanted to just 6 months solo traverse of Pacific Crest. And this is what I was training for. And it's basically you need to get fit enough. I wanted to do it in 4 months. So I needed to basically do marathon a day, for 100 days straight. with a backpack through the mountains. And I was training for this, and I was good, and I could do this. And COVID was supposed to be my year to do that. And COVID shut all of this down. We couldn't do anything. Yeah. So now I can't do that, and I can't train. I can't go on hikes because everything closed.
Yeah.
I live with older mom. I basically was just locked up for 18 months. And this is when I discovered poker.
Poker!
The point where, the progress stopped and it's all
Yeah, I needed to do something, and I wasn't even playing poker. I got addicted to watching high stakes poker, and that's all I did. I just binge watched every final table I could find.
I still do that to this day, in all honesty. Like
I'm definitely not unique in this. I've met a lot of people who are, kind of found poker the same way at the same time and just got addicted to that.
So for those that don't know, Victoria kind of dove like head first into the high stakes poker world, and I'll let you get into like the bridge of how you went from watching to doing. But just to let you know, it's not like she just went in and was just like, oh, I'll just donate my money to people. Like, she has well over $2 million in earnings. She's far well respected by all her peers. I know that for sure. So just for those who didn't know that coming into or whatever, now you know.
If you listened to her speak so far and don't sense the big brain energy, you might have been able to beat her for the first 6 months she started playing, but we run a game, and maybe now knowing your past, maybe you can't play with us at the table. But yeah, how did you? So you went from watching to
doing,
to experimenting.
So it was September 2021, and I just moved to Montana, and just settled down, kind of a massive move in its own right.
Had you ever been to Montana, or you just picked it? I like it with a dart on the map.
No, what actually happened, I was in Montana once before. I brought my puppy to a training school there, like a couple of years before. It was the only time that I was in Montana.
She's here right now, by the way, guys.
Yeah, my puppy is actually here in the car. He was my hiking partner, and he's very special. So I needed special school, and the only school that I knew that works with bear dogs is in Montana. So I was still in California. We had wildfires going on during COVID. I don't know if you remember. California was on fire, and the place where I lived, we had to evacuate. So I left the house. I jumped in a car, took my mom, took my puppies, and went to Seattle and stayed with a friend for 3 months, three weeks. And in that time, I was like, why would I come back? What is exactly the point of me coming back to California? It's like, no, I'm done. I'm just going somewhere. So where, I don't know, but I need mountains. So American West. I'm not that familiar with American West, but I want to find out. So I drew them up, and I said, Colorado and below, no way. Before is just lower is too hot, right? Colorado is too whatever. It's not extreme enough. So probably north of Colorado, but I really never been there. So I'm like, let's go find out. So I jump in the car. I take my puppy with me, and I'm like, we're driving through Great American West, and when I find a place when I we'll settle. And so first I go just kind of straight from Seattle, straight east. So first was Spokane, kind of that end. And I spent there for a couple of days, and it's nice, and I could see it, but it's no, not radical enough. And then is northern Idaho, but it's very short, and it's there's no point. And next you're straight in
Sorry, Idaho.
Sorry, Idaho. But you're short and you have no point.
Just the top part of you.
Right.
The rest is fine. Love your potatoes.
Coeur d'Alene's beautiful.
So then I arrived to Whitefish. And by the way, I arrive and everything is this white milk fog. It's still everything is burning. So my visibility is half a mile, which is unfortunate. But sometimes you can infer things. So 24 hours in Whitefish, it checked every box. Day 2, I go out to look at real estate property, and I find this perfect house. And day 3, I put the offer in the house. Before I put the offer in the house, end of day 2, I call my mom that I left, and I'm like, Mom, I want to move to Montana. Do you mind? She's like, why would I mind? Thanks.
You got married in 11 days. I mean, buy a house in 3, fine.
And then I call my kids and like, kids, I'm moving to Montana. They do what they usually do when they get phone calls like that. They roll their eyes and go, oh, mother.
Oh, Mom.
Where's
And
the
then
nearest
like,
airport?
what? Like, what's Montana? So we have that conversation, but yeah, so I put the offer in the house, and I think it was day 3, and like it was accepted, and then I just drive straight to California. We pack our bags, I put house on the market, and like 30 days later, we are Montanians.
That's pretty great.
All right, real quick. Do you have crypto just sitting in a crypto wallet doing nothing? Then you've probably never heard of Gauntlet. Gauntlet.xyz is a $1 billion research company that manages risk for huge internet platforms like Uniswap, Arbitrum, Jupiter, and a ton of other ones. And how can they help you? They actually curate these things called crypto vaults. And what's a crypto vault? Well, you just put your crypto in, you get an interest rate. The interest rate depends on the supply and demand of that particular token that you put into there. It's kind of complicated, but their algorithms make it like 1,000 poker solvers are working on your side. And you get a return on crypto that was just sitting in your wallet anyway. Here, let me show you how it works. I've got 800 USDC here. I'm gonna put it into this USDC vault. The current interest APY is a little over 9%. So I'm gonna get that for a little bit, and I can take it out whenever I want. Now, as you can see, they have a bunch of different vaults, a bunch of different tokens. Do your own research on all of this, which one appeals to you, but definitely don't let your crypto just sit in your wallet doing nothing. It could be here earning for you. So if you've got USDC or USDT, which if you're a poker player, you probably do, you're gonna wanna have it sitting in one of these vaults earning something for you. So head on over to gauntlet.xyz/T1 and it'll take you right to the vault page. You'll be able to check out which one looks good to you. All right, back to the show. Man, I gotta stop asking you to elaborate because we eventually have to get back to poker.
I honestly don't even want to. I'd rather just invite her back and we get into poker like next week. It's fine. Like I'd rather pick her brain about pre-poker.
Yeah, but actually the breach here is that so it takes a year to get settled and whatnot, and now we're in September of 2021, and this is when I like officially retired from grid, and the country started to open up a bit. And the World Series ran like October, November.
That's right, yeah, because it got
right that year.
Basically, yeah.
And
right.
so it's early September, like, oh damn, there's this World Series thing that's happening. It's like, why don't we just take something I never do, take 10 days off and just fly to Vegas and just see what happens.
And this is your first time ever in Vegas?
No, I was in Vegas many times before.
Okay,
and I even, if you like, look at my hand on mob, there is actually some entrance is like 17 and 18.
I saw that.
And the funny thing about this is that I happened to be in Vegas around 4th of July at that time with my girls, my daughters. And both times it was like a ladies event. And I entered, and I have a cash or two from those years.
There's a few. Like it was like 17, 18, like you said, and then there's like nothing
one
until
or
21.
two. Yeah, because
and
that
I was like, there must be another Victoria Livschitz.
Yeah, no, it was me, and I was in Vegas at that time. It's like that's
crazy.
That's kind of the story. But then there was absolutely nothing, and then in 21, I deliberately came for 10 days to actually kind of see what's happening, and I arrived. I think September 30th is when it started, and then I opened the schedule for World Series, and like the next day there is a 25K 8 max, and then the third process.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
No,
it sounds like you you never do anything impulsively anyway. So like, there's no reason to take your time and think about if you want to play a $25,000 tournament.
But I usually have some reason for doing things. So my reason was it has nothing to do with poker. It has nothing to do with actually competing or something. My thought process was this. I just spent like a year and a half watching final tables. And I knew rules of poker, well enough, but I knew what these wizards are doing is something very different.
Right.
Like I was like, okay, I have 2 cards, and then there is a board, and like if I connect, then I bet, and if they don't, then I don't. And they don't do that at all. And they say magical words like blockers and unblockers, right? And I'm so captivated that there's obviously depths and dimensions that I can't see and I can't comprehend. And they all look like to me like such an incredible wizards. And now I came to Vegas and I want to like meet the wizards and I want to get some insights into like what's going on. But I'm also very pragmatic, like nobody will talk to me. Like I can't, right? I'm nobody, I'm here. So let's see, I see, somebody in a corridor passing by. Jason, what am I gonna do?
Hey,
come
teach
and
me.
shake
Hey,
his hand. Hey,
get over here.
Yeah, exactly. like not possible. There's no way to get.
Speaking of blockers, you can't get by. Teach me.
And then I have this bright idea. It's like, okay, it's expensive, but I can pay $25,000 and I get this golden ticket and I can go and I can sit down at the felt.
They
Across,
they
right?
can't run away from you.
You are literally the only person in the field not trying to get a table full of businessmen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I should have got the soft tables. Like, come on.
Where's Kuhn at?
Where are all the Brian Rast types?
Everybody who knows me even today, that's kind of my reaction to the tables. So anyways, yeah, it was like, okay, I'm going to lit $25K on fire. Thanks goodness I can afford it, at that point in time. But I want to go and see maybe something magical will happen. That was literally the thought process. It actually worked out precisely like that. I enter, and I remember getting there a little bit early, and I have this feeling like I'm a tourist, like I'm literally a tourist, and like Eric Seidel is passing by, and I'm like, oh, can I take a picture? It will probably look really weird. So I sit at the table, and I have Stevie Chidwick, I have Jason Kuhn, I have like every reg that I've been watching, right? And the only person I did not know was Sam Grafton.
Oh yeah.
Because he wasn't anywhere in the final tables that wasn't like in my universe. But of course, Sam is like a soul of the party, right?
Yeah.
Like he chats nonstop. Now, people are obviously a little bit intrigued because you just don't see a lot of grandmas from nowhere coming, and just paying $25K to sit down. I literally have no idea what I'm doing, but I lasted, several levels enough, and I even busted like respectively, like I got it all in, sevens versus his, Sam's jacks, and we actually it was like a set over set, and he like caught quads by river. It was like dramatic and respectable way to bust. But I had the several hours first of that dynamics, and Sam was chatting away about something always. And this one time he brought up some dude 150 years ago, and I don't remember who the dude was, but it was apparently he said something about him becoming a great chess player, and he mentioned the name, and I'm like, the name doesn't ring a bell. So I challenged the great Sam Grafton to, the facts that I don't think he's. No, I was like, I don't think that name is really like familiar in terms of like top tier chess pros of 150 years ago. Now people are extra curious, so Wikipedia is brought up. So they found the guy, and the guy really was famous. I don't remember for what, and there was something about him getting interested in chess, but obviously it wasn't a crusher or something. So I got some brownie points that way.
I am curious, like all these crushers, it's a very serious tournament, $25,000 tournament.
Yeah.
Like usually a table talk's kind of at a minimum, but like was Sam.
But it was a Sam at the table.
Was Sam at the table, that does
it was
change.
Going around, yeah.
But like, were people opening up to you at all? Were the people like kind of prying? Oh, what's your name? Where are you from? That kind of stuff.
Not at that time. Okay. And I was also like, I was trying to be at ease as much as I could, but I wasn't because I'm just in martial land, right? So, anyways, the real icebreaker happened a bit later, and I could talk a little bit about that, and that's where like Chewy comes in, the ultimate icebreaker.
Yeah, he's adorable.
But on that tournament, basically I got to know Sam a little bit. And I stayed, and just after busting that 25K, the immediate next tournament on schedule was a $400 daily, I think at Win or Aria.
Jumped in.
So I jumped in and I won. I won.
Did it pay 25K at least?
It did not pay 25K. I think it paid 8K or 9K.
Okay, all right. Rebate.
But after that, I played 14 events, and I cashed an 8, and actually came up plus 30K, all said and done.
Even with a 25K?
I think even
with
that's
great.
Yeah. Like I kept cashing in these events I had no reason to cash. Like shootout, I remember it was the first one to clear my table. Like out of 400 tables or something. Chino tells me that he remembers that because he was at my table.
Chino?
Chino,
Oh,
yes.
Chino,
I don't
yeah,
remember
right,
anything
yeah,
about
right,
this, but
yeah.
he actually does. Beginner's luck or whatever. I cashed in 5K, I cashed in 3K, I cashed in just a bunch of different tournaments, which was obviously just huge morale booster. And I just kind of swore to myself, I'm gonna learn this game.
That is awesome. So I feel like a lot of poker players have a similar origin story. Like I know Art and I both do, where like our first like kind of taste of especially tournament poker, we just had success and we're like, this is amazing. Why would I do anything other than this? This is
right.
Forget the money attached to it. It's the biggest dopamine rush.
Yeah, the first
ever.
tournament I cashed in Vegas, I won. The first tournament he cashed in Vegas, he chopped. It
Oh,
was just
awesome.
like, it's like the hook, you know? It's like they pull you,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
pull you in.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it was just like, yeah, why would I deny this feeling every day of my life? Granted, we didn't know what was going to happen in the future, but still, like, so like this is just being like, okay, this is my thing. Like, you went from.
I basically said, you know what? Like this is it. Like I have gotten interested in a lot of things over the years, but I don't think anything ever intrigued me more, and it definitely didn't change in the three years since. It's just the thing that have become the next obsession.
So did you decide to move to Vegas right then and there, or was it kind of a?
No, I decided to move to Vegas. I moved to Vegas early January. I decided to do that in December, quite reluctantly. So no, that's pretty recent.
Okay.
And a lot of things happened in these 3 years that gets us to here. But back then, no, it was like, I got to learn this game. So I started with like, okay, I need a coach. So luckily, I caught with Sam Grafton, in one of the tournaments. And I said, you seem to know everybody. Like, I want a coach. Who do you think would work with me? And he's like, okay, I'll work with you. So Sam was actually my first coach, which was amazing. And I still remember incredibly fondly the time with him. That was a great way to get started.
He's a fun and smart guy.
And then I ran into Bill Klein several times. And I had good fortune to, I think, bust him from a bunch of events, which is a great icebreaker always.
Nice to meet you. See you later.
Oh yeah, you're the one that
So
busted me all the
anyways,
time.
at some point in time, I just came and tell him how much I admire him because I saw him on all the final tables.
Yeah.
Tell him a little bit about my background, and he said, "Oh, you need to know Kerry Katz, and you need to go play in this studio in this event." And I didn't know anything about that, but he connected me with Kerry. Kerry connected me with Candice, and the next thing, I got invitation to basically come in December to play, this yet another 10K series. For you guys, it's yet another 10K series. For me, it's like the
It's your
oh
Super
my
Bowl.
God,
Yeah,
there is this tournament, and the thought of paying like $10,000 for some turbo bullet, it's okay one time to pay $25K, basically, to, burn it on fire for a specific purpose, but the idea of basically firing 10K and some turbo was terrifying. But so it goes.
Into the fire.
Yeah, I mean,
Into the fire we go.
she knew it wasn't going to be just 10K. It's easy if it's just 10K, but like if you're
Well, I
obsessed,
didn't know
10K turns into $500,000 really quick.
I didn't know anything about this, but I did make my trip. My second trip to Vegas was in early December, and I entered this 10K, and I remember my first table. I remember firsthand. I get dealt queens. And you get like 100 big blinds, which seems small at the time, right?
It's a little turbo.
And I'm in big blinds, and I have queens, and so some guy bets and opens, and I call, and the flop comes jack high, and I check, he bets, I call, small card, check, bet, call, another small card, check, jam, call. I have queens. They look at me like I'm a complete idiot that I am. But now I double, right?
I was going to say, but you won, right?
But I double. And so next I remember Ali Imshirich is like Foray to my right, Ali Imshirich to my left. I'm like, oh my goodness. Foray just won the main event, right? Mm-hmm. So we end up colliding with Foray where, it's all in. He had a better hand, but I got lucky. So I bust Foray, now I have a big stack. Then Ali, blind versus blind, he raises. I remember I have 7-4 suited, so I call. flop comes 7-7-4. He runs 3 street all-in bluff. I call, so now Ali is out. I have a giant stack. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I feel super uncomfortable. Just overall,
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm
yeah.
doing, right? I'm like in a martial land, like all these great people, and they're playing the game, and I'm just, I'm kind of reaping the benefits, but it's all very weird. So eventually I run ace king into aces, so stack gets short. I remember being mid tournament, moved to the table with Chewy. This is where the first time I met him. He was on my left. We ended up playing shitload of blind versus blind. He knows what I'm doing, I'm not, but he says that he thought that I was competent, which was nice. We ended up battling a lot, and I ended up final tabling, and Nick Schulman was on the final table. I ended up cashing in 5th or 6th or something. So, like, classic story, right, of, again, beginner luck and whatnot. But Chewy was the one who was super curious, right? And so he's the one always to break ice and figure out who that was, especially because he kind of thought I was competent, fooled him back then. And so he kept wanting to talk to me. I had no idea who he was. But yeah, he was kind of breaking the ice. And then next time I started seeing him in more and more tournaments, and we started developing friendship. And then was Phil Schenk. I was a close friend of Chewy and Nick. They were all kind of one study group, one poker family. Mm-hmm. And little by little, they started kind of advising me on all things poker. And then they told me, oh, you got to go to Florida. These are really good tournaments. I ended up going to Florida and kind of hanging out with them. And then eventually I left that they sort of adopted me into their poker family.
I mean, what a good ambassador Chewy is, by the way. I'll shout out to him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was just a remarkable set of strange string of happenings that always is how roads are paved.
Yeah, when you're going through it, you don't notice, and then you look back and you're like, oh, that really couldn't have happened any other way.
If it wasn't for those 100 coincidences, wouldn't not be here right now.
All right, really quick, guys. Phenom Poker is out now. It is live. And if you want to support Table 1, just go to joinphenompoker.com, and that will help us. Fill in your information, and you'll be on with us.
Tons of people on there, tons of action, especially until Art and I will run out of money, I think.
That's true. And we are doing some sort of free roll. Anyone who signs up through our link, we're going to eventually reveal the details on Twitter, but if you sign up through our link, we are going to go all in up to 10 times at $100 no limit until somebody wins the $100. We might stack you 10 times and you'll lose 1,000 in this promotion, but we are trying to give away 100. So if we accidentally stack you 10 times, thanks. Thanks for playing. All right, join phenompoker.com. Now!
Yeah, I wish every newcomer could meet Chewy as your first professional. I think the retention rate for poker players would be very high.
You gotta be willing to set some serious money on fire.
Sure.
Yeah, most new players don't just hop into the Poker Go Studios 10Ks.
Fair enough, but still
have a chance to meet a Chewy type. They're in the $200 dailies and getting berated for making a bad call.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is nice to. There is an intimidation thing. I know when I first played live poker, when I picked up golf for the first time. Like, you're going into this new world that you don't know the rules of the rules and stuff like that, and you're just scared you're gonna step on someone's toes and you don't want to do anything different. But like, once you're entrenched, you're just like, oh, like there's almost nothing I could have done wrong. Like, I mean, everyone's so nice, generally speaking, anyway. Like, especially in the high rollers, I suppose. But like, it's you're like, oh, I didn't have to be as nervous as I was. But those are lessons that you have to learn yourself. You can't be told those things. I think that's true in a lot of things in life.
Well, I think part of, back to where we started is their formula for success in life, just in general. And I think different people find different formulas for success, but people who are successful, they certainly, it's not coincidences. There is mechanics, there's system to the madness, and different things work for different people. But I think some of the things like having enough confidence in yourself, to put yourself out there in situations that are scary and the ones that you can't control, but you do that anyways, and then you...
Sometimes you get on a plane and go to Russia. I mean, whatever. Like, Jesus.
And sometimes you just do what you have to do. That's the other part of responsibility.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So talk to me a little bit about Octopi Poker, because I know, but like,
Yeah, there's a bet.
Yeah.
Here's
Old
that.
patch
like-
that I could find this morning.
Was it your idea and like you kind of talked to Chewy about it, or was it like you and Chewy's idea, or what was the the origin?
So the origin is about 3 years ago. So I'm like 6 months into my poker career. And my first trip to Florida. And by then we're pretty good friends with Chewy and Philip. Less so with Nick, but Nick is like kind of a close friend of them. So I'm kind of, Nick is sort of part of the same circle. There were some other people there, like London was often, and London is very funny. He was just always doing push-ups on the floor, like oblivious to everything else, and berating recreational players for having audacity of paying $3,000 for entering main event and knowing nothing about opening ranges. So there's just
Landon Tice, is that what you're talking about?
yes. Very hilarious cast of characters.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Everybody grown up, like Landon has grown up too, but I remember meeting him at that time. He was just like always doing push-ups and berating some recreationals. That's my image of like early
Two great
days
hobbies.
of meeting, meeting London.
What do you enjoy? Push-ups and berating people.
So anyways, that night was my first experience like really sweating somebody, and Chewy took down 50K, which was amazing. It was heads up with Foxin, and it was just so cool to be like railing somebody and then him winning. Morale was very high. But anyways, we got into one of many all-nighters, and they were sort of advising me as always on what do I do to study poker, because I want to be crushers like you guys. So they're like, well, you have to study like we do. And so what is it that you do? Well, Lord's work, and like Pio is the almighty tool of the chosen one. And I'm like, well, I have a problem. I mean, first of all, it doesn't run on Apple, and I never own Windows machine, and I don't ever intend on owning one. And they're like, well, tough luck. And the second, like, I've seen your Pio, like it's an incredibly ugly piece of software, and like I don't want to learn it. I don't think it's very well put together, and I think it's designed for humans. And they're like, Victoria, what are you talking about? Like, it was perfectly fine for us, and it's like that's how we became as good as we are. And I'm like, no, you're just all like broken because you're dealing with bad stuff that's been fed to you, and you don't know any better. So it wasn't terribly constructive, but I was like, look, guys.
You were kind of like Steve Jobsing them. Because you're like, you're a PC, but like, I'm going to make it pretty and
But that is
functional.
what I do, and I do come from Silicon Valley. I'm not naive about these things, and I have, I think, pretty good professional judgment call of what are the good tools or the bad tools. And I spent 30 years not only building good tools, but also I am an innovator, and that's what I do. I notice when things are just not done right, and there is capabilities on the horizon that can augment, the existing industries and make them better. Be it, Detroit tech in the 90s, or fintech in 2000s, or poker tech in our time. So, first part of it was like, guys, what you are working with is just really not something that's a good tool set. And by your own admission, you spent 6 years staring at the solvers, and I don't have that kind of time. So eventually they turned the table and said, okay, fine. So how would you do that? This is where things turned fun.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, so here's how we would do this. We would use power of the cloud. We would do things in real time that is not done, today. We would, the interfaces needs to be designed for human. It should be fun. It should be immersive and visual and graphical. And, AI can do this and AI can do that. And now it was time for them to be fascinated. And really by morning of that night, we sort of formed this pact that says, look, we've got this incredible expertise between us. We're the poker crushers, we're student of the games, we're the elite, and you're the Silicon Valley maverick, and we're all combined by the idea of we love poker, we think the game is growing, we want to uncover its secrets, but we also have like a really great slice of somebody who is been with the game forever and also a coach, somebody who is coming into the game now. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of different really cool perspectives. And then the part of our collaboration at the time was, like, I was earning my keep in the poker family.
Yeah.
Like, they were teaching me poker, but I was teaching them business. So it was a nice barter that worked for everybody.
Sure.
So we were like, okay, so why don't we form the company and we'll work together and I'll show you guys sort of how it works, and we'll work together and we'll try to like just redo poker tooling from scratch. And we think that we could do it better than anybody before us, and that's how Octopi was born.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
That's how the best companies get formed, right? Multiple expertise coming together around the same kind of excitement.
And she didn't mention this, but I do think it needs to be highlighted a bit. But like starting a company where your target audience happens to be half the company, and like the other half of the company are the ones that are supposed to be able to teach. So they probably don't understand the palatability of like all this information, and like she's just the perfect test subject.
Exactly.
It's just like, oh, this doesn't make sense to me. Let's change it. And you're like, no, it makes sense. It's like, I'm the student here. Like,
exactly.
You're selling it to me. I don't like this.
I'm a big believer in something that we call in Silicon Valley, eat your own dog food. And I've always done it with my own companies. Like, I had an outdoor recreation company before I had this, during my obsession with outdoor recreation. Mm-hmm. So my company was making maps. So I would go and traverse the wilderness using my own maps.
Gotcha.
That keeps fire burning to make the best mapping technology out there. Sure. And also, if it's not so good, I'm literally putting my life at risk. We had an outdoor food company, so I would go on wilderness trip and I would eat exclusively my own food. Same kind of a thing. Yeah. So right then and then, I kind of made a commitment that my poker journey and my study will be bounded exclusively by Octopi Poker as a platform. So, like, if I want to do something as a aspiring professional, and I want to do a lot, I better find my way to build these features for Octopi, or I get to use them.
I think that's great. So is it just, let's see here, octopipoker.ai?
Octopipoker.ai. So after 3 years, I would say we are sort of finally having the product that is extremely compelling, mm-hmm. very competitive, is very aligned with vision. We're still in early days, so the journey has just barely started. But it is 3 years of very serious R&D, millions of dollars that's been invested in rethinking what the perfect poker study environment is like. And some of the tenets that we're going after is that it's a poker study for everybody, from the absolute beginners who are learning poker today to the highest levels of elite. And there is obviously shades of gray in between, but we want it to be your first and last, aid to your path to poker mastery. Mm-hmm. It aims to make poker study fun, gamify the hell out of the process. It is not designed to be an RTA tool. It is designed to be a study tool. It's got things that you would expect any solver company to have. I mean, it's got solvers, it's got sim libraries, it's got ranges, it's got strategies. These things are basic and they're pretty complex. So good part of the last 3 years was building the core machinery. Mm-hmm. But now the real fun begins, because we want interfaces to be designed for humans, not just expose what machine thinks on these square grids. And so to be able to grasp the ideas, to ask why, to be able to get engaged and experiment and go on a quest of building your curiosity around the spot, around the hand, around why are we doing this with the third pair but not doing it with the fourth pair and whatnot, and really uncovering the ideas and doing it in a beautiful environment, if you will, as far as the tooling experience is concerned, and all completely web-based, so you don't need to have a Mac or a Windows or a Linux or anything. These pieces are slowly coming together.
That is wonderful, by the way. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I've played around with it a little bit. I don't get on. I'm ready to explore. A little bit, but like you, it was like too intimidating for me. All the solver stuff. But my favorite part of the software, which last time I talked to Chewy about it, he said it was very nobody used it. Was the poker base where you could see final table hands or like all hands, and you can watch
whenever
it in
you
real
talked
time.
to Chewy, this was already a few months ago, so the software is leaps and bounds. If you haven't looked at it recently, I would invite you to do that, and I would love to give you a personal tour. But essentially, yeah, we have a piece of technology, we call it the Vault. So we're scanning the hands that are played on streams. We scan them and we extract hand histories. And now we have a database of basically best hand played by the best players on the biggest
stage for the
final
most money.
tables.
Right.
So part of it allows us to obviously celebrate greatness. And so you can find a lot of information in hand history. If you wanted to see every hand that Stevie Chidwick played in the final tables that are within our system, you can go find hundreds of hands by Stevie. How amazing is that? But then what we are doing now, it took a long time and a lot of R&D for us to get to, and it's quite expensive, but we now nailed it. Essentially, we can automatically solve every hand. So what we're doing now is not only we're getting hands, but we're solving them. So not only do you see a hand, but you actually immediately can dive into analysis and see what are actually the correct strategies are. So for example, everything that happened on a Poker Go this year at PGT, there's 3 series already. Not only every hand that's played is on there, both final tables and feature tables, but all the final tables have been solved. So you can actually go and study and see the right ideas. And then on top of it, there is really quite an amazing trainer environment where you can practice. So that's the practice mode. And what happens is you get fed, you literally can say, I wanna play like Pads, like Patrick Leonard.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be given every spot that he was in. The real spots, the real cards, the real stacks, the real stakes, real opponents, and it's like your move. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And so you're playing the spot, and you get a lot of feedback, and it's compared to what the optimal play is, but you could also see what did Pads do here.
And I do think it was at Poker Go Studios, because I messed around with it as well, and it's wonderful because like a lot of the GTO stuff is kind of in a vacuum. It's just like, okay, this person has 20. He's opening off 24 blinds, and you have this hand, and you have 18 blinds. But like it's in a vacuum. It's kind of weird because like well, what kind of player is this? What's my table dynamic? But like with what you're doing is just like it's Stephen Chidwick. Like,
I get fooled all the time. It's my own software, and I will get in the vault, and then all of a sudden I can't even shake it. It's like, crap, this is my spot, and I just raised my blinds. What do I do? And then I'm like, oh wait, you're subconsciously you're not even realizing you're like this emulator, right? Final table emulator, like Poker Go Studio emulator, and now we have World Series. We have Bahamas that just got scanned and solved, and hopefully where we're going with it is that every modern hand played is going to be in a catalog, and it's going to be solved, and you can train and practice, and we could both celebrate and follow and learn from the best.
Yeah, that's awesome.
that is cool.
And obviously you're in it and nobody knows what the end game is, but what's the end game for Octopi from your perspective?
Oh God, I'm just getting started.
The game,
There's
never
no
ends.
end game, there's a journey, and there is adventure, and it's epic.
Just a quick break here, guys. Are you tired of playing with players like this? Not this.
No.
This? Or this?
Or do you want to play with players like this?
Oh, wait. If you like having fun at the poker table, Table 1 is the game for you. We play high stakes, no limit, 100 blinds. And if you want to get into the game, it's actually super easy. We have a website, table1.vegas. You just go to the website, you click get a seat in the game, and fill out the form. It's that easy. It's your name, it's your phone number, it's the date that you're here, and I will personally reach out to you.
And it's only $5K minimum buy-in. Run it up at 2.5 and join us.
I could talk about maybe mission and vision rather than the end game. And again, I want to point out that we're in a very, very early stages. And there's kind of many dots here to connect. So on one hand, we want to build we want to make poker study tools widely accessible to poker lovers around the world. And that notion of accessibility, it's multidimensional. One of it is interfaces. Understanding what's happening with the game, understanding the ideas, understanding the mechanics, understanding maybe what the solver thinks, making it accessible to people of all different levels of competence, so that they can find more about the game and then get better, is one part of it. And I alluded to the fact that we want the entire spectrum, but obviously competence it's an iceberg, right? Like the elite is on the top, and it's a tiny point something percent. The vast majority of people who love poker, it's a global phenomena, and the game is growing bigger and bigger. The big goal is to grow the game. So we envision having millions and millions and millions of users. Millions. Poker is blowing up in every continent. It's blowing up in Asia. It's blowing up in Latin America. It's blowing up in Europe. It's blowing up here home. And in this day and age, if you love the game, your experience will be so much better if you understand it better, if there is a higher entertainment value that's attached to it. And so I view Octopi Poker as an enabler of all of that. So we want it to be mega accessible, and I envision millions and tens of millions of people being users of Octopi, implicitly or explicitly, directly or indirectly. And second part of it is pricing. We are very nothing short but revolutionary in the way we approach pricing. It's become, the poker training tools became, I think, extraordinarily expensive and niche in recent years. You can't buy a course that is comprehensive enough and costs less than $1,000. That became the standard. $1,000 per course.
Yeah. With the expectation you're going to make the money back.
You need thousands of, you need lots of different courses to become competent, so pay $1,000 per course. If you're going to buy a subscription to videos instead, run it once will set you $200 a month. Upswing, GTO labs, high quality content, elite people teaching you, $1,000, $2,000 a year.
Yeah.
And what do you get? You get a talking head talking to you. It's like the most passive form of learning, which also proven over and over and over again not to work for anybody. But so cough up essentially thousands of dollars to get access to high quality resources. And even those things are kind of a dusty and outdated models of delivering and consuming content. Meanwhile, we see streams blowing up. We see it's an age of content producers, right? We see podcasts. We see Twitch. This is what people want to do. This is where the eyeballs are going. Now they tend to be free. There's different monetization strategies behind it. The content creators are compensated by other means if they can accumulate enough eyeballs, right? But for the humans, that's entertainment and education. But none of these, very expensive, commercial content providers kind of operate that way. And then you look at GTO Wizard, which has been the only game in town until very recently in a tooling board. I mean, they tripled their prices in 3 years. Not 3 years, year and a half. This is what monopolies do. This is why monopolies cannot exist anywhere, and they shouldn't exist in poker any more than anywhere else. They've gone from whatever, $50 or $60 a month to what, 130 and above. And if you want both cash and MTT, multiply it by 2. Most people can't afford it. They absolutely can't. And so our vision is that there is always and forever reasonable free tier that gets people in, and you're part of the community and you get some value out of it. Our pre-flop ranges are free in the free tier. You have access to trainer, small number of spots, but you can get the real experience of real learning and the social aspects of it. We're trying to build a social network for poker players as a part of Octopi. So the first point of value where you get essentially all the tooling except of the most advanced ones. The most advanced ones is like ICM final tables. So if you take that aside, $20 a month or $180 a year is a full subscription to everything. The ranges, the seams, the trainer, and more stuff that we're gonna put out there is essentially price of and we often run discounts. So you buy an annual subscription, it's $12 a month, like it's a price of a latte, right? And so now this is real.
Yeah,
now this is value. This is something that people can afford in India, in China, in Taiwan, in Japan, in Brazil,
Kansas.
in Russia, in Kansas. Exactly.
They have computers?
We didn't talk today at all about Pocket Queen, so that's maybe a topic for another day. But it's a study group for women that I've started some years ago, and we have now over 1,000 members. It's an incredible organization in its own right. It's also my petri dish to study really what like user poker and the invisible poker community is like. And I ran a bunch of polls, and they're all like love the game and aspiring students, but $20 a month is about the max of somebody who is not a professional can comfortably drop on a hobby. So that's another piece of the puzzle. And then we have essentially kind of a top tier all you can eat, which is $50 a month. That gives you vault, it gives you every spot solved. You subscribe for a year. It's today it's $450.
That's well, just going back to what you were saying about accessibility. That's a stark difference between every other range of content out there. And I think the other content providers, while they are quite good, they're basically attacking the top end of the range.
Exactly.
And
I want the entire mass of the invisible iceberg.
Yeah.
I want millions of lovers of the game. And then the story goes deeper, is that let's connect people who provide content. Let's connect stream providers. Let's connect as streams happen. We can get the hand histories. Then we can run analytics. Then we are building essentially, for the first time, maybe ever in poker history, because we have the vault, we can create sports statistics. Essentially, that every other sport has, and why you can have entertaining broadcasts, because you can enrich what's happening and explain by introducing human elements and story and dynamics. Let's just say there's a big pot between Ike and Stevie. Well, what if you actually could say how many pots have they played together?
Look on the back of the baseball card and just be like,
exactly.
They've played 48 hands. Stevie has won 24 of them. And
what was the big? Exactly. What was the
Yeah.
biggest pot that they played and whatnot? So we are building all
That's
that
fun.
statistics,
That's
and
fun.
we're going to make it available through the to the streams, to the commentators, and that enhances value of everything.
Yeah,
And then I would be amiss not to mention George, our lovable mascot octopus. We have a service called Ask George, and that is something that is both fun in games, but also very serious business, and we're investing a lot of R&D money towards making George the ultimate interface between humans that want to study poker and poker theory. Today, you can ask George a lot of stuff and sometimes get incredibly insightful answers. We have people who ask George all kinds of things. But George is in the labs learning poker strategy, learning ranges, learning post-flop heuristics and ideas. And the view is George will be able to tell you, how do I play jacks? What do I do in this spot? Why do I, raise the third pair but fold the second, or whatever the case might be. And for many people, that's really the interface, the ultimate interface.
And it's set up, and I'm not trying to date it or anything, but kind of like Ask Jeeves was back in 2000 or whatever. It's
and
just
that was
Ask
groundbreaking
All.
at the time, and then Google was born, right? And then it became the most successful
Yeah.
company of all times. Actually being able to give people answers to the stuff that they want to know is the most magical thing of all.
So why George? Just curious. Was it just kind of picked out of a hat, or there's some fun
There's
backstory?
a very fun backstory. It's actually Nick Schulman's story.
Oh, all right.
And I hope I'm not going to butcher it. Obviously, nobody can tell it as good as Nick.
Yeah, fair.
But when I was first part of this poker family, if you will, they would always say this thing like, "Oh, this is so George." And I could infer that it means that it's good, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it actually means. So in one of the very early company meetings that we had, Nick was there and we were all there, with, all co-founding team. Somebody again, Johan or somebody again said, "Oh, this is so George," and I'm like, "What does it actually mean?" And so Nick told the story. He says it's a story from the old Vegas, and apparently, we're going several decades back. That's how I learned the story. There were these prototypical figures of Tom and George. So George was the perfect customer. Mm-hmm. If he walks into a gambling room, right, he was always high class. He would, gamble with honor, pay his debt, and he was just like this perfect customer. Mm-hmm. And then Tom was the opposite of it. Like the troublemaker, and the guy who you always, if you're a card room manager, you'd always want to be on the lookout. Mm-hmm. And so, according to Nick, there was an old tradition in the old Vegas that the floor managers, when they saw George coming, they would, basically send a signal, send a signal. I think it was something like this. which would tell others that George is in the house, and there was a symbol for Tom. So Tom and George,
okay.
and George was the right guy.
Yeah, it's even in they drop it. They don't explain it like you did, but like they drop it in rounders even. They're like a couple of Georges sit down or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So George and Tom, here they are.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you ask Tom what not to do? Is that
you should have the Tom there as well.
Be Tom. And eventually, like George is featured prominently, but eventually I think Tom will make its entrance as well.
He should just like the devil on the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
Exactly.
Oh, this is awesome. Is there anywhere people can follow just you if they want to follow Victoria's story?
Oh yeah, so I'm on Twitter. I'm not super active, I guess, but occasionally, I would tweet either on my behalf or on behalf of Octopi. So I think it's Victoria L_64.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the best.
All right, we'll put it down below, regardless.
The other places to find her, guys, Poker Go Studios, The Win, and the WSOP.
That's right. And eventually Trident. Not quite yet.
Oh, yeah.
Not quite yet.
Oof, man.
Not quite yet.
Oh, you're awesome. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having
Seriously.
me. I appreciate it.
This is literally one of my favorite ones ever.
Is that the pod? That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking.